Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Pod Save Chocolate. My name is Clay Gordon. I'm your host and your moderator, and today's topic is Season 4, which is the 2025 season edition of the Craft Chocolate Challenge. I got a special guest today, Dustin Cornett, who is the organizer, creator, driving force of the Craft Chocolate Challenge, and is also the founder of the Midwest Craft Chocolate Festival. And we're going to be going and inviting Dustin onto stage very, very quickly. But first, what I want to do is I want to talk about the fact that this episode of Pod Save Chocolate, like every episode of Pod Save Chocolate, is sponsored by members of The Chocolate Life. So you can go over to The Chocolate Life right now. Here's the homepage. And you can see exactly what it is that we're doing. And for every episode of Pod Save Chocolate, and we'll be referring to this over the course of the episode, there is a post with all of the links. So if you're watching this later or you're listening to the audio podcast, you don't need to worry about seeing any of the links or anything like that during the episode. You don't have to worry about copying them. They're all down on this post that I put together. Now, I do want to also remind everyone that you can comment and ask questions during the course of this episode. So please, you can go into the live chat on YouTube or into the comments on LinkedIn and Facebook, and you can just give a quick shout out, let us know where in the world you're connecting from, and you can also ask You can also ask questions of myself and Dustin, who's going to be joining right now. So, hey, Dustin, welcome today. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much. And thanks for joining us. And thanks for, season 4 of the Craft Chocolate Challenge, right? Because, this will be the third edition that I've participated in. And the second one is head judge. I think I'm head judge again this year. And it's been, fabulous opportunity for me to participate and also help contribute to the growth, the awareness, the understanding of what's going on. But first, for people who are new to the Craft Chocolate Challenge, why? Why does it exist? What motivated you, right, to come up with this idea?
So first, thank you for sharing your platform with me to be able to get out all this information to everybody. I appreciate that. So why I created this is I'm a chocolate maker myself. And when I was trying to get better at my craft, I ran into issues figuring out how to do that. So prior to being in Indiana, I was in Eastern Kentucky. It's kind of relatable in the sense where there's not a whole lot of chocolate makers around me. So it was difficult for me to go to festivals and interact in certain ways with other makers and pick their brain. And I would enter some contest hoping to get some knowledge or some idea about the level of my chocolate. And it was either you win or you lose. There's not much in between. And it was kind of a crapshoot there. I didn't really understand what I was doing right or what I was doing wrong. So I was struggling to improve. I would ask my customers, but they are my customers. They support me. So a lot of them are just going to be positive. And then also where I was at, they didn't have a tremendous amount of experience with other craft chocolate bars. So that was a tricky thing too. So I decided that there's probably other chocolate makers out there struggling with this as I am. So how can I help? How can I fix that? So I got this bold idea of creating the Craft Chocolate Challenge. So and it's primarily set up to give the feedback to kind of create that atmosphere where we can learn from each other, but we want to have fun too and know where we are. So we do it as a contest as well.
Well, if you're working with chocolate and you're not having fun, as everybody who's a regular listener here knows, I think you're doing it wrong. But let's focus on that because I have experience as a judge. I was a judge at the International Chocolate Awards. I've never judged the Academy of Chocolate Awards, but I've also been a judge at the Good Food Awards. Right? And they're very, very different judging environments, just physically the way you judge. And the judging rubric is very different. Now, I've also been a remote judge for the Premio Bean de Bar Brazil, um, yeah, obviously in Brazil. So I'm aware of what it is that the judges are being asked, and as someone who's been dedicated a large chunk of my life over the last couple of years to growing this community, I think it's really important to understand that there is value in having your chocolate compared with other companies' chocolates, right? But if you're in a place like Eastern Kentucky, there aren't necessarily a whole lot of online options, right? For you to be able to go and learn this stuff. If you have a technical question, how do I go about doing A, B, and C? There are lots of places, but there aren't very many places where you can go, how do you approach professional tasters and say, what's wrong with my, how do I improve? Not necessarily what's wrong with my chocolate, but what are ways that I can improve? And importantly, for the Craft Chocolate Challenge, I mean, we're not just looking at the chocolate itself, not just the bar itself, right? We're also taking a look at the packaging. We're taking a look at aspects of tempering, that don't necessarily get judged, right, in the other awards programs. They're really just focused on what is the chocolate like. So, I'm guessing. I'm guessing we've had this conversation more than once in the past, so I'm not really guessing. Leading question, that this really is about what am I not getting from the existing. So you've entered the International Chocolate Awards and you've won awards, but the feedback that you were given, if you were given any from those awards, didn't necessarily tell you how your work compared with the other ones, except on a numerical scale, right? And it didn't give you any idea really of how to go about what can I do to make it better. So I'm just, for people who are watching this for the first time or listening for the first time, that is the essence of what the difference between the Craft Chocolate Challenge and other awards programs. It is the primary focus on feedback,
Yeah.
right?
And to be fair, the International Chocolate Awards probably does the best out of all the others for having like a feedback kind of platform that they have set up. It's just not as in depth and as easy to understand as like what we're doing. It kind of goes into this little bit of a big flavor profile and several different things like that. And you don't you don't see it through the same eyes. But yes, to be fair, that they do offer feedback now, and it isn't. It's probably one of the better ones out there compared to the others that have entered. But it is very different. Ours is more of a service in a sense too. It is pretty expensive to enter certain awards programs, and like I said, it's a crapshoot some ways. Where at least we're filling out a whole form, and not exactly who we are by name, but kind of our preferences and certain ideas like that. And we're willing to help more as a community. And now they have a lot of entries compared to what we're focused on. So it's not necessarily fair to say that they can't do that. It's just not in their world of needing to do that.
Well, I can also tell you as a judge, specifically the International Chocolate Awards, and I haven't done it since I think 2017, so it may have changed. I know that it has changed in some respects, but there are often so many different things that you're judging. So you'll have a flight of 9 different chocolates, for example, and you have less than an hour to work through those 9 chocolates. And while that may sound like a lot, it's not a lot of time, right? And if you're doing 4 or 5 flights in a day, as you sometimes are, it becomes a real challenge. That having time to go and do in-depth feedback on a particular item when you need to make sure you're not holding everybody else up. I mean, there is some pressure. Now that it might have changed, with remote judging. But I remember being in a room with 20 other judges and trying to keep everything on track so that we got through everything. I don't want to belabor that point. But what I do want to say is that one of the things that we do with the Craft Chocolate Challenge is that every entrant will receive a copy of every judge's form. So not only are you getting all of the feedback on all of the points, right, but you also see the actual scores and comments they gave relative to the scores. And so all of that is so you can see the range of things that you're getting where people, so it's a very, very different emphasis, which is I think what intrigues me, and it makes judging, I mean, really, really hard for me. Last year we had 67 entries, and we had a week to 10 days to judge them. I mean, that sounds like a lot, but if you're going to focus on feedback, I would spend 30 minutes or more reviewing an individual bar, thinking about it hard, and maybe come back to it again. I mean, as a judge, it's really, really challenging. I mean, it's a lot of fun, but it's really, really challenging. What I want to do before we go on to the next point, Dustin, is to give a quick shout out, number one, to Mike King at Encore Coffee, where he's roasting and listening from a cold. So if you're roasting, it must be warm. And it's so I'm Mike. Yeah, I get what you're saying, but it's good. I'm glad to hear that everything's working in KC for you. You have been an entrant and a winner in previous seasons of the Craft Chocolate Challenge. I understand that you've got other things going on today, so you weren't able to join us live here, but hope that you do stay warm. And also, quick shout out to Mark and Yuri at Blue Spruce Chocolate in Kittredge, Colorado. Now, um, Mark, Blue Spruce Chocolate has also been a winner, an entrant and winner in previous seasons. So Mark wants to share that the Craft Chocolate Challenge is an amazing opportunity for new chocolate makers. The exposure and feedback was priceless. Thanks to both of you for all you do. Well, thank you very much. Listen, Dustin is the guy who is behind the scenes doing all the heavy lifting on this, and making sure that it happens. But let's talk about some things having to do with the challenge itself. So here's the post on the Chocolate Life right now, and you can go there and you can scroll down and past this. And one of the things that you'll do is you'll see there's a link to season 4. And Dustin, this might be a little confusing to people when it comes to other awards programs. So number one, what am I looking at here when it says the 2025 Craft Chocolate Challenge entries? Because right now there are only 6 that are listed. What does that mean?
Okay, so how it works, because we don't charge a fee, so we don't necessarily know if we're going to receive your chocolate or not. You sign up on a form, and we get your information. So we assume you're going to send the chocolate, but then again, maybe you don't, right? So we don't count it as an official entry until it arrives. Because you're not paying for it. If this was a paid system, then we would count it as an official entry as soon as it was paid for. But system is set up that we count it as an official entry when we actually receive it. So that's what that is. We've had close to 30-something entries, I believe, at the moment, but these are the only ones I have in hand. I've spoken with other chocolate makers that haven't filled out the form yet, but intend to do so. So we're tracking pretty good. And I like each category to have good representation, but I'm not trying to just max out everything. That's not the point of this. We don't make money off of how many entries and stuff we get. So we don't have any incentive really to do that. We want to be able to manage the entries. So we cap certain things to make sure we can do that. We want to be able to provide the best feedback we can. That's the important part. So, the amount of entries we get, I like I said, a good representation for each category to make sure I have a strong competition factor going there. We do have a lot of fantastic chocolate that comes here. So I feel like we do have a really good, strong competition side, but definitely the feedback is what we're focused on. So that's why we cap everything.
Right. So I could tell you as a judge that the competition is amazing. I mean, from the second year, so from the second season to the third season, the just looking at the quality, however you want to describe that word quality, just improved amazingly. And so it's great to be a part of that. But let's talk about another thing that makes the Craft Chocolate Challenge different from specifically the International Chocolate Awards and the Academy of Chocolate Awards, which is that there are only 4 categories, right? So what's that all about? You hinted at it, but why only 4 categories?
It's another way of kind of controlling the quality of everything. If we tried to make a category for each type of chocolate with over 90% or 2 ingredient or with alternative milk, or it's just too much to handle. Like, we do physical awards as well for all of these. Just the top 3 gets a physical award. So the more categories, the more awards. It's like the more overhead, the more funding you need through sponsors or donations, and basically the more headache, because our job is not, or my job here is to not award you just because I want to award you. I love to award everybody. It's to make sure that I can offer a good service, and that's part of it. So dark, whether it's plain or flavored, milk, white, same way. They kind of get all grouped together. This is your battle. You might think entering an 80% or higher dark chocolate bar or an alternative sweetener chocolate bar might not be on a level playing field as something sweeter, or using real sugar. That's just how it's set up.
Well, and this is where the diversity of the judges. So not everybody is a certified taster, right? You got this and not necessarily everybody is a chocolate professional. You just might have a regular chef, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But it's important to know that there are in fact just 4 major categories. So it's plain and flavored dark chocolate. And what that means is no dairy ingredient or representation of an alternate dairy ingredient in the chocolate. So it's very, very simple, right? We don't talk about percentage. We don't talk about origin. We don't talk about the number of ingredients. It's just plain and flavored dark chocolate. And if you look at previous awards, you'll see that it's not always the plain unflavored dark chocolate that wins awards, right? So this is where the discretion of the judges come in and the experience of the judges come in. The same thing is true of milk chocolate. It's plain and flavored milk chocolate. So you could be, as I think Blue Spruce did last year, they added passion fruit, although that might have been a white chocolate rather than a milk chocolate now that I think about it. But you see that. And then you've got plain and flavored white chocolate. Now, I know that Mark at Blue Spruce specifically asked the question about what defines an inclusion. And Dustin, you and I had that conversation before going live this morning. So do you want to jump in terms of what you think, inclusions covers?
Yeah. So I understand that there's, some confusion that gets, the inclusion confusion, I guess you can say, because we have our own idea of what an inclusion is, because we put plain and flavored together. So an inclusion basically is a coarse ingredient. So whether that is inside the chocolate, other than sugar, because there's a way of making chocolate with coarse sugar. We'll get into that in a second. But yes, it's basically something coarse. So if you have a chocolate bar with coffee, I should say, if the coffee is ground smoothly into that bar, then it is considered flavored. But if you use that coffee inside the bar, sprinkled on in like its coarse form, where you get that crunch, that's an inclusion. That's probably the best way of explaining it. And I'm happy to answer any questions about that if you want to send emails and before you enter or whatever. Yeah.
Right. I do have to say that, there is, so everybody is asked to enter their chocolate in a particular category. But Dustin has the the final say on which category it should be in. But I want to go back and talk about this. So, yeah, Mark says inclusion confusion, and I'm confused the pronunciation. Nice wordplay. We like alliteration here. But Mark, hopefully we've cleared it up for you, unconfused it. So the idea being is if there is any ingredient which adds a texture to the chocolate, it can be considered an inclusion unless the texture is a part of the style of chocolate. So, for example, if people are familiar with many Taza chocolate bars, they have a rustic texture. And that rustic texture sometimes comes from the cocoa, and sometimes it comes from the sugar, right? And so if it is, or, we had the cacaitos chigarodo, the 2-ingredient, or maybe the Modican chocolate from Sicily, which is, Doña Elvira, or Antica Dolceria Boniuto, those would be considered just plain and flavored, because the texture is an inherent part of the style of the chocolate. So Mexican style, for example, right, would be that. However, if you were to take a chocolate bar and then take conventional sugar and then refine that sugar into the chocolate, but add another sweetener, right, into it for its textural component, then that sugar would consider to be an inclusion, right? And so hopefully, Mark, that answers your questions, because you did comment on this on the Chocolate Life yesterday on the post for today. And I want to make sure that it is completely clear what we mean. Right, so you could add salt to your chocolate, but if you refine the salt in so it doesn't provide a texture, then it's a chocolate bar flavored with salt, right? If you use the salt, incorporating it into the chocolate or on the spread, sprinkle it on the back, then that is considered to be an inclusion. So just wanted, and I as a judge have received a bar which I thought was miscategorized. Right. And so I will go back to Dustin and say, hey, I think it's miscategorized. What do you think? Right. And so we do have that discussion, right, going forward, to let you know.
I try to catch some of those when they come in and communicate, but sometimes you don't know until you're getting into it. And then it's like, well, all right. And then we have that rule about 1 entry per category. So sometimes it gets a little tricky in those regards. But we try to make sure everything is communicated well and understood, and just
okay. So that's interesting. Is that, I mean, one of the things I learned about doing some analysis on other awards programs is there's definitely the more you enter, the more you are likely to win, right? And so the magic number looks to be 3. If you enter 4 things, right, you're likely to win an award. If you enter only 1, you're not likely to win an award, right? So there is that aspect of it. But what we want to do is, I think this is the response, is you wanted to make sure that even if you have just 4 categories, that you have a decent spread of entries in every category. If you have 67 entries total, you want to have at least a dozen, right, in each category, so that awarding a first, second, and third, a gold, silver, bronze, makes sense. Right? When did you decide? I mean, how early was it in the whole process that you said you can only have 1 entry per category? So you couldn't do 2 darks or 2 milks or 2 whites. You could do 1 of each.
That was year 2 when I did 1 per category. So the first year we allowed, I believe it was 5.
5
entries.
Total entries.
Yeah, 5 total entries per maker. And then I think we had actually one company that did all in 1 category. And it's like, we're not necessarily helping in this case, because we have one of your bars of that category and that style. I feel like is maybe enough to be able to give the feedback we need to give you. 2 would maybe probably be fine too. But when we go too far, it's like we're not actually helping, I don't think, by having more. And then when the challenge gets more known, we have more entries that are coming in. So we have to figure out how to accept those to be able to help as many makers as we possibly can. So year 2, it came to, you can enter 1 in each category. So you can enter 4. So you can enter 4 bars actually. So 1 in each category. And then after that, it's like, okay, so we're getting a lot of bars from the same makers. And it's kind of hindering a little bit of what we're trying to do and how we grow. So if we were keeping that style and growing to year 3, then we would have been over 100 and something bars. So there's just no way to do that. So now we scale back and be like, all right, so you get 2 entries. So you have to pick which category you want to go into, and then only 1 per that category. And that's where we're at now. I feel comfortable staying there at the moment because we have other ways of controlling entry. One of the ways is if you win consecutive, like if you can consistently win, if you win 3 times, then you're considered a master and you're ineligible to enter the awards. You can enter in a way where we'll help you with reviewing your bars and do whatever. That's, we can do that. But you've won so many times, we feel pretty confident that you're a good chocolate maker. You don't necessarily need us for all of it, but we are here to help you if you still want us to help you. So we have that in play now. So as the challenge continues to grow and we have more entries, the people continuing to win won't always be eligible, and we're not going to see the same winners over and over and over again for a decade.
Right. So for a little clarity, for people who might not have picked this up, is that so right now we're in season 4. So somebody who has been elevated to master status, right? And there's only one, and we can mention who that is, right? One in season 1 and season 2 and in season 3. And that was?
It was Tandy of Embers.
Tandy Peterson of Embers Chocolate in Phoenix. So Tandy cannot enter a bar and be considered for an award. Correct?
That's correct.
But she could enter a bar just asking for feedback.
Yes. Review only. We can do that. That's a perk of she entered the contest. She liked what we were doing. She supported what we were doing. Obviously, we respect that, and we want to continue to help if she needs the help. So we can offer that.
So can anybody who has not won an award ask for review only?
If they don't want to enter the contest and they want to do review only, we can. And if there's a lot of those, then I would set a different timetable for those to be reviewed. I would do the contest reviewing first and then set aside the only for reviews afterwards so that we do everything in a timely manner. So completely open to do that.
Okay, so we've got one master so far. So Embers Chocolate, Tandy Peterson. Are there any companies that have won awards so that if they enter and win this year, they get elevated to master status this year?
Yes, this is a big year for that, actually.
Okay.
So, so Tandy entered year 1. So that's why she was able to do this. A lot of these other makers came along in year 2. So we have Sweets Escalier. We have Ganzit.
Wait, so I just want to say, but let's do this. I want to highlight Sweets Escalier is from Japan, right? So this is an international contest. You don't have to be in the United States to enter, right? There are no entry fees. Your only cost to enter is the cost of the samples and shipping.
I feel like we get more international entries than almost the domestic entries. I feel like that. I mean, I check out the numbers, but we do get a lot of international entries, so which is
I took a look at that last year, and there was Ecuador and Denmark and Norway and Japan and India. So there were at least 5 countries, and I know that I'm missing one, right? In terms, so yeah, there's a lot of international entries. So
there's a lot of different countries.
Okay, so we mentioned Sweets Escalier from Japan is if they have 2 entries already this year, so they're being considered. And then we have Mike King, Encore Chocolate. Mike was a part of the conversation. They're on the cusp of becoming a master. Mark, Blue Spruce Chocolates, is also on the cusp. A company called Ganzit Chocolate in Rhode Island is also, and I was hoping Ella would be able to join us today, and maybe she still will be able to. And then another one which we think which started in Southeast Asia, but they moved to Texas, Kesho, right, is also on that list.
Those
and
are the
so
ones to watch.
Those are, I mean, and as judges, I mean, it's been great to see the progress. So I mean, for example, when we talked to some companies like 2 years ago about their packaging, and then to see them last year and see how their packaging has changed to address some of the concerns we have, and then will be interesting to see how they do that again this year. So before we go to the next point, Dustin, what are the deadlines? Because I realized I don't have the deadlines for entries.
So the deadline, it would be on the form you fill out there if you want to click that. But it's at the exact date eludes me at the moment, but it's at the end of February. So I need to have your bars in hand at the end of February. I believe I'm giving till the 28th of February to have them in hand, but cutting off the entry, I believe, around maybe the 21st or 22nd. Entering.
So filling out the form. Filling out the form.
Yep.
So roughly fill out the form by Valentine's Day, more or less.
Yes.
And then the chocolate needs to be received in Rushville, Indiana on the 28th of February. And I see that Mike is paying attention, and he's also saying the 28th of February. And which means that judging will be done,
right afterwards, pretty much. We'll do it. So we'll start as soon as I can get all of the entries where I can ship them to the people that are judging remotely. I'm setting up an in-person judging for around about the 7th or 8th of March to kick that off for us here. So as we don't need to waste time. So as soon as I get everything, I'm ready to roll with it.
Right. So let's go back to last year, because I think it's instructive, because I think that one of the things that's important is that the organization do a job of promoting their winners. And so what Dustin has done here very, very quickly is this is a lot more information than other awards programs publish. It's important to understand that in each category that we've talked about so far, dark milk, white, and inclusions, there are only 3 winners. There are only 3 awards. There's a gold and a silver and bronze, and those are done as a result of scores that each judge gives, right, independent of the feedback. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so what you do is you say we have 11 judges. So cacao beans from 33 farms spanning 18 countries, 66 bars from 4 continents, 14 countries, and 13 states. I mean, already that's more information at a top level than other awards are talking about. If you wanted to figure this out, you'd have to go and look through all of the awards and figure this out. So I love that. We have 11 judges, but you had 24 entries in the dark chocolate category. So we understand where all the entries come from. Interestingly, only 7 entries in white chocolate.
I know, but it's like, you got to pick that up. So that is the part that bothers me. It's like, I want to see more competition in that. And I think white chocolate, there's a lot of innovation possibilities in white chocolate.
Let's talk about that. But I think that one of the things we do is that I would say that I think that a lot of the inclusions entries were white chocolate.
Yeah.
So there is that aspect of things you don't tease it out. But so in addition to the four categories, the main categories, there's a meta category, which is top overall, right? Which says that what you do is you take the highest 3 scores, independent of the category, and they win an award for best overall. So we have a dark chocolate bar winning the top overall. We have a silver, which is a cashew butter and fleur de sel, which is an inclusions bar, right? And then we have a milk chocolate and coffee, which is a flavored bar as well. So when I say is it's not necessarily the unflavored bars that win, flavored bars win as well. So we do have that wet. Oh, you have somebody doing construction on your front door. Right?
Yeah, sorry, the timing of it.
No worries.
If you hear that, yeah.
Right. So we have an overall
storm door.
So we have these overall winners. And then we have this innovation category, which we'll get to. But I think that it's also really interesting that what you do is that you publish a profile for each one of the judges. And there's no reason why a judge can't identify themselves, is there? The judge
No,
wants to
it's
say,
completely up to the judge if they want to do that. I do not disclose who they are.
right. But if anybody cares, judge number 2 last year was me.
There you go.
Right. Right. A chocolate journalist and judge. So if anybody wants to know, but it's really important that that the judges are not identified in the judging form. I'm just always judge number. Last year I was always judge number 2, right? So it could be that once each one of the entrants receives their feedback, they can go look at this list and go, oh, this is Clay and this is someone else, right? There may be a way to figure it out. So it's important there to know. And then finally, let's talk about, because I know that Mark asked about it, this innovation category. Do you want to jump into this one? What innovation means to you, and then I'll follow up on it.
Yeah, so we were able to create this award because of Cocoa Supply. We had the idea of, okay, so some of these bars are coming in, actually some of them from Tandy even, that
Yeah.
were so interesting and take you down this journey, but they're also a bit polarizing if you don't necessarily like the ingredients in there. So it was hard to be like getting the score high enough to win an award, because this competition where there's only 3 awards in one category, like it's determined like by a point. So if you have one kind of low score, you're in trouble. So it's pretty tough competition, even though there's not like thousands of bars. So we like, how can we not necessarily award, but respect, promote, or something this type of innovation, type of adventurous chocolate. So
Yeah, can I put it slightly different, which is taking risks?
Yeah.
There are, it is all about, trying something new and trying something novel. But if you're looking to win an award in another category or in another awards program, you don't necessarily put together or an entry which includes something risky, right? Because you run the risk, right, of really some judges just not understanding what you're trying to do, right? Or just some judges just like, I don't like that as an ingredient. I mean, I've actually been in a judging session where one of the judges said, I don't like this particular company, right, who manufactured an ingredient that was included in the bar. Therefore, I'm not going to think about them, right? I'm not going to give them a good score because I don't like the company, right, that makes the inclusion. It's like, oh, but it's like, for me, this has always been a challenge in other awards program. As a judge, I'm tasting something and I'm going, oh my gosh, this is really, really interesting, but I'm just one of a bunch of judges. And so I remember very, very specifically at a Good Food Awards, we had the opportunity of choosing between Still Yet Another Salted Butter Caramel. I mean, perfectly executed, just a gorgeous piece. Or somebody who added, I think it was saffron into marzipan, right? Which, as you might imagine, is a pretty polarizing kind of product, right? And wanting to go, oh my gosh, what I really want to do is I really want to recognize this particular entrant for taking a risk, right? And so I think that's what, for me, this innovation category is all about, right? It's not necessarily entirely new, not necessarily entirely novel. It might be, ingredients that we all recognize, but they've been put together in an unusual way, like marzipan and saffron, right? Who would have thought of that? Or somebody once did a chocolate covered actual honeycomb from a beehive, which was insane, right? But I couldn't convince the other judges that it was sustainable. For some reason, honey was not sustainable. I don't get. And I'm going, oh my gosh! But the texture aspect of this is just so absolutely insane. And the sweetness of the honey with the dark chocolate. I mean, this is amazing, right? And that's why for me, I was really, really happy when Lila at Cocoa Supply said, let's go and sponsor an innovation category. And in part because they provide some pretty, interesting ingredients. If you've never worked with dragon fruit powder or lulo powder, which is a form of citrus, which is endemic to Ecuador, this is a chance to go and do that. And again, it's irrespective of category, right? So I, as a judge, what are we going to do? We're going to nominate, each judge is going to have an opportunity to nominate 3 or 4, right? And 3 or 4 entries as being innovative, but not necessarily, oh, this is innovative in the dark chocolate, this is innovative in the milk chocolate, this is innovative in the whiter inclusions. It's just irrespective of whatever category they're entered. And then you say, why? Why do we want to include them in this as an innovative enter? And then based upon, I forget, do we give them a score? Is it the number of recommendations?
It's the number of how many people nominate for them to be innovative. Yeah.
So the entry which is most nominated wins. So, and they're not ranked. Okay. They're just 3. Yep. Right. So it's not gold, silver, brand. They're just 3 which are recognized to be innovative. And I think, for me, again, I mean, as a judge, this is sometimes the easiest and sometimes the hardest thing to do, right? Is to say, oh my gosh, how am I going to go do this? And so, but it's also for me, one of the really, really fun categories to judge. I mean, I love the inclusions category. I love the white chocolate category because, as you say, it's a place to have a lot of fun with what's going on. To be frank, no disrespect to Mike at Encore or the people at Gansett who have won for their coffee entries. I mean, I would like to see something entirely new with coffee. I don't know what that means, right? But that would be, how do you innovate with coffee? And it would be the challenge that I would put out to you this year. But yeah, no, it's great. So if you're thinking, and again, what it also says is that if you're in another country where there might be a flavor which we're not familiar with, so you are from Ecuador and you want to do something with salpiedra, right, or some other indigenous spice mixture which we might know about. We've had a lot of people from India who do just that. Right, there are a lot of really interesting spice blends from India, which we here in the United States might think of as innovative, might not be innovative in their home countries, but it is the combination with chocolate which makes them really, really interesting. So yeah, I think that's really, really cool to think about. I wanted to talk about one other thing, if I can. So. Just for everybody, just really, really quickly, when we go to the Craft Chocolate Challenge website, and we have links directly to the season 3 results, to the season 4 page, I embedded a link to the entry form. So if you can bypass going to the Craft Chocolate Challenge website if you want to. If you want to learn more about Cocoa Supply, there's stuff there. But you also have this alumni page, which we want to talk about as well, I think, which is really important in the sense that there is ongoing recognition of all of the entrants. So this is not just about what's happening this week, right, or this month or this year. It's about recognizing. So is this a complete list of all of the companies that have entered?
Yes, I believe so, but I think my links got broken. And I was trying to fix some things, but yeah. Right. But yeah, it should be a complete list up till like the previous season.
So I'm looking at this and I'm going, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, there's something going on here. But what I would like to see is alphabetical within year or organized by year. So I know when people have entered. So it might be really helpful. And really important is that there are links so that even if they weren't a winner, right? They were an entrant, even though they weren't a winner. What we're doing is we're recognizing who these people are, which I think is really, really valuable, so that people have, they know that when they enter the awards program, that that there is value which is in addition to just winning an award, right?
Yeah. I will continue to do things like that, and the more ideas that come to me, the more collaborations I can make. Definitely promoting craft chocolates, and the makers and all of that is very important to me. So I would definitely continue to do as much of that as I possibly can. And I have a couple more things I need to talk about too.
Go.
One is we started doing this, I think it was 2 years ago or so, but maybe I dropped the ball and didn't promote it as much as I should have. And I need help from the makers to promote this as well. But we have the unofficial judge option as well. So we make the criteria available, and we make a sample judging sheet available so that anybody out there in the world can go see these entries and purchase a bar that's in the challenge. And they can fill out the form, and they can even send it to me if they want to, and I'll send it on to the maker so they can play along with what we're doing. If they're flipping fantastic at it, then maybe they have an opportunity to be a judge, an official judge one day too. Who knows? Like, you never know. So that is an option that I want to push more and more, as we keep going along too, because I think that's great. And because the panel that I do as well is diverse. So we have some that are excellent, like, those chocolate tasters or whatever you want to call them. They're certified, and you have people who've been eating craft chocolate for decades or whatever that have a taste for it. And we have some that maybe I'd call like a chocolate snob. And then you have your regular customers, or you have your chocolate maker. You have people that view things differently. So not every customer is the same. So we need to know who likes what and how they like that. This is a way of getting the feedback.
So you can see here that Judge One profile was a chocolate maker and a chocolatier. Then there's me, a journalist. You have a reviewer, another journalist, a chocolate lover. It's like, I would say, general consumer, right? Another chocolate reviewer, a chocolate adventurer, a chocolate seeker. I mean, love all these different terms. An educator and writer, an enthusiast and reviewer, and then a maker. So a former chocolate maker who is probably now currently a chef and a technical writer. You might want to clarify that because it's not clear to me. And it says certified chocolate taster, which I don't actually see anybody up here with an asterisk.
There's got to be one of them up there somewhere that has it.
I don't see it. You might want to go.
I think it's number 3 there, if I'm viewing it correctly.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, it's a little hard to see. Okay.
It's an asterisk.
Anyway, just my bad in terms of not being able to see it. But yeah, so it is a diverse group of people, which I think is really, really important. I know that's something that we looked for at the Good Food Awards, less so at other awards that we looked at. But it's true. And Dustin, what I want to say is, once you decide that what you want to do is you do want to push this, general reviewer, right? The unofficial reviewer, the unofficial judge program, let me know. And what I will do is I will add it to my outreach, because I think the number one is, I think it's a really good opportunity for people who want to get used to judging, who want to think about the discipline of judging and whether it's something they might want to do for a very, very large competition, to go and see if they can buy 1 or 2 bars locally and be able to do the judging themselves and see what they come up with. So one thing that we can provide, I can help provide, is to say, here is like the average judge's score, and here's the way you scored. So we can give you feedback on how you did as a judge compared with the other judges, right? Which is also great feedback, right?
Judging the judges.
Yeah. I have, so, Dustin and I have done this in the past, just so you know, is that he's given me like the minimum score or given me all the scores. And what I've done is I've put them into a spreadsheet, and I said, here's the min max, here's the mean, here's the average. So you can get an idea for how close the judges' opinions are on average. So you can know, oh, we had a lot of outliers, or everybody was pretty um, had the same sort of judgments for everything. So it's really it's as a data geek, I love this stuff, and I wish that all of these other competitions publish much more data about their competition so we could understand, right, what's going on. So
another thing too is
okay.
I have a little pilot program I'm working on. I don't know how busy this is going to be. I don't actually see it being super in demand, but I've been asked this question each year now about a category for a non-chocolate bar. Um, whether it's a bonbon or a hot chocolate mix or whatever, it's still craft chocolate, but not in a bar form. So I'm opening it up for review only for the next 2 years. So this season and next season. So I can kind of dive in and see what that looks like. So if you have a product out there that you would like reviewed, um, that is a non-chocolate bar, you may do so. And I've set up the form to be filled out in that type of way as well. So there you go.
So this is the first time I'm hearing about it. Were you going to let all the judges know that?
No, it's a surprise.
Okay.
I mean, there's no reason to tell you if we don't have any, right? So
Okay. Right.
but
So
we might. So a spread maybe.
what,
I don't know. We'll see.
right. So what I want to suggest with this, as far as I'm concerned, as a judge, I'm happy to do this. Right. The challenge again, we have is that we want to focus on the actual entries first.
Yes.
And so it needs to be a different deadline.
Yes.
But what we also want to do is sort of like understand. I think it's a really good idea. Understand what the parameters of the category is. So is it just bonbon?
No. So this is a pilot program. So I don't know what direction it's going.
Right,
But I've been asked this so many times. It's like, if this is what is needed, it's like I put myself in this situation like 4 or 5 years ago. I'm needing something, right? So if somebody's asking me, and then if there's valid need for it, I need to listen. So that's what I'm doing. I'm listening to it, and I'm seeing where it goes. And then just like innovation last year to this year, we're tweaking a little bit to improve. It's the same concept. It's like, all right, so we'll move forward with this non-chocolate bar, and we'll see what happens with it. And that's about all I can offer. It's just being open-minded about it, essentially.
So it could be, so at the moment, we don't know if it is one category or two categories or more categories based upon what you receive as entries in this new phase of discovery.
Yeah, so we're seeing how we can judge it, if we can even judge it. So somebody might send a spread this year. I'm not sure. It was asked about last year. We had like the coins, but they actually did a bar form of their coins, that they were selling coins and different aspects that way. I mean, we've been asked about bonbons, confections, and things like that too. Caramels, whatever, that are chocolate covered, has to be chocolate. That is definitely a rule. But we have to figure out, if we get these, how can we do it in a way that's going to help somebody? And until we actually take that step and try, we just don't know. So that's kind of where I'm at with that, of just open-minded about it and seeing where it goes. Like I said, I don't see a huge demand for it. It doesn't really line up with everything that we're offering that we can do, so we'll just see.
Yeah. So I could imagine immediately, a category like chocolate covered.
Yeah. Chocolate covered fruit, chocolate covered whatever, chocolate covered.
But it could, but chocolate covered, chocolate covered also refers to bonbons. Right? They're all chocolate covered. They're all
chocolate covered. And inclusion could be chocolate covered depending on what's inside.
Absolutely. So
Ready?
I think this is really, really cool. And I'm excited. Surprise. Hey, all the other, so there are 11 judges again this year. And by the way, you're not a judge, right?
There's not going to be 11 this year, I don't think. I believe there's going to be 9 of us. I think there's going to be 9 of us. Possibly
Okay.
10, but probably 9 of us. I'm thinking 9.
Okay. Right. So, so a quick, so
Chocolate
Mike
covered
says,
crickets. There you go.
chocolate covered crickets. Yeah. Mike, we might have, yeah. Okay. All right. Let's figure that out. I've done chocolate covered ants. I've done chocolate covered crickets. I've done chocolate covered grasshoppers. Yeah. Right.
So,
But we're not being asked to give awards this year for the chocolate covered stuff. So,
no,
yeah.
nor next year. So this is
Okay.
a 2-year pilot program, and after that, I will look at it and see and determine if I can help. If I
Right.
figure out that what I'm offering is not going to be sufficient, then I'm not going to do it. It's
Right.
just I need to
Right.
figure that out.
Right. And also how your judges are feel about doing this as well,
Yeah,
because
I might lose some. Who knows? Yeah, they might not like the chocolate
right.
covered crickets. So we'll see.
You hear that, Mike? Right. Are they innovative? I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, I mean,
Would be innovative.
I've done a lot of, things that have been done in a coating pan, right, as opposed to things that have been run through an aerober versus things that are shell molded. Right. So it's like, yeah, it opens it up, but then you run into how do you distinguish among and between categories in a
Yeah,
way
it might
that
not
makes
be.
sense?
It might just be this is just a non-chocolate bar category, and that's it. It's a
Non-bar,
catch-all,
a
all of it.
non-bar,
Yeah, non-chocolate
non-bar.
bar, non-bar category. Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah.
And
Right.
just catch
Right.
all, and that's your competition. You're up against whatever's in there, and if it primarily we're talking feedback for these products, so
Right.
if it is a mix or a spread or they're enrobing something or panning something, if it's just being able to give feedback on that would be
Mhm.
the thing that we would really be looking at doing. Awarding
Mhm.
the awards would just be a way of making it part of the contest.
Gotcha.
So just finding out that, yeah, way of doing it.
Yeah. So one of the reasons why, I'm thinking about this, and again, you just dropped it on me a few seconds ago.
Yay, surprise.
Um, Thank you, Dustin. Um, One of the things that I think is a really good reason for people um, to go ahead and do this, right, is that I think it's a way to expand your product line. If you're a chocolate maker, I don't think you should identify yourself as a bean to bar chocolate maker with a focus on making chocolate bars. If what you say is, I'm a chocolate maker, what can I make with the chocolate that I make? Right. And then you're making things which are suitable for children, right, that have, very, very different customer profiles, some of which might not include a whole lot of chocolate, which right now is your most expensive ingredient. Right. Cocoa butter is your most expensive ingredient.
Mm.
Right. That this could encourage people to look at creating other kinds of products with the chocolate that they make as a way of diversifying their product line and creating a whole set of products which are in fact more affordable. So Mark says, certified chocolate taster. Who certifies chocolate takers? I don't know if the Ecolat. I think you're talking about Ecole Chocolat there. Um, the mashing things together, but certainly the organizers of the International Chocolate Awards, which means Mark and Maricel, or I'm sorry, Martin Christie, Marisol Persia, Monica Moschini, right, the three, also run what's called the International Institute for Cocoa and Chocolate, or Chocolate and Cocoa and Chocolate Tasting. And they have a program which uses their methodology, but like the WSET, which is the Wine Spirits Education Trust, they have 3 levels. So you can be a level 1 certified taster, a level 2 certified taster, or a level 3 certified taster. I think that I don't know. I don't know what you do with that when you get done, right? I don't think you can become. I don't think you have companies hiring chocolate sommeliers because they have tasting certifications. That's not a thing yet. I hope perhaps it will be at someday. I don't think it's
It's
there
probably a
yet.
pretty good icebreaker at parties, though.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like, what do you do? Oh, I'm a
Yeah.
chocolate critic. I mean, it's been a great icebreaker for me for many, many years. I mean,
People ask follow-up questions for sure.
they do. It is that respect, but it in my experience, very few people pay a chocolate critic for their opinions about chocolate. Right. So finding a way to take a certificate in chocolate tasting, if you're not a maker, and turning it into a full-time business or a career has been a real challenge. We're not at that point yet. I hope that we get to that point, but we're, after 20 some odd years, we're still not at that point.
It's intriguing. I think it's interesting. I've never done
Yeah.
it. I don't know if I ever will, but it is interesting. And
Well, so this is yeah. So another thing is, before we because we've hit the hour, one more thing I want to talk about, Dustin, is how many people who exhibited at the Midwest Craft Chocolate Festival, right, have been entrants and winners at the Craft Chocolate Challenge, and what's the overlap there?
oh yeah, there've been a few. So this has been a great way for me to kind of network as well. I can't enter my bars into my own contests. I just can't do that. So I'm being able to get feedback in different ways and working with chocolate makers and becoming friends with a lot of them. And that's fantastic. And being able to meet them in person at a festival is even better. And at Festival I Created is even better. So I'm very happy with the direction of everything that is going. And I was able to see Mark, from Encore, Tandy from Embers.
Mike from Encore.
Sorry, Mark was Blue Spruce. I want to see Mark though next year, but yeah, Mike from Encore, Tandy from Embers, and we saw Chell from Jordan Chocolat. They were all in the contest at one time, and Elmer
Pineda from Yohoa in Honduras.
He had entered last year. It's got to meet him. Very friendly dude. And Paul from Maverick is the closest one. He hasn't entered the contest, but he had been part of helping me develop some of the ideas of the contest and challenge and everything. So it's great to have him there too. It's just kind of building this community, and we probably have some makers that were at the festival that enter this year in the contest. Now that they've been able to meet me and understand what it is, they might contribute.
Right. And so it's also, I think there's an aspect of it which may be lost on some people who weren't there, but it's certainly something I noticed, which talks about a commitment to promoting the entrants in and the winners in the challenge. So for example, in your store, you run the Chocolat Cafe in Rushville. I mean, you have winners from the 2024 challenge that you sell at retail. So I know that Heritage was there. I'm trying to think who else. Gansett was there.
Yep.
So was there. And I know that Sweets Escalier sent you bars from Japan, right, for being able to sell them during the festival. Right. So, if you, and in addition to entering your bars in the challenge, there's a chance to grow the community and to be able to, through the Chocolat Cafe, have a place where your chocolate could be available, right, in the United States, because I can go to the website and order and you will ship. Correct?
Yep. If I have it, I don't have it online for them to do it. They'd have to message me, but yes, for sure. And giving the opportunity to promote people that enter is a big part. And that's something I need to say here too, is the sooner you send your chocolate, the faster I can take a picture of it, promote it, get it on Instagram, put it on the website so people can purchase and be unofficial judges. And it works better, especially now that we're getting closer to time. If you can just go ahead and send the chocolate, then the process works easier, and it should be more beneficial to you by doing it that way too. Because if I get 20 all in the last week, it's not going to help you much.
Right. No, you understand. So and it's fairly cold right now in the United States, all over, and so except for Los Angeles. So getting stuff to Dustin in Rushville. Do you have? I mean, you've started working on the Midwest Craft Chocolate Festival for 2025.
Yes. Yeah. So pretty much the same dates, November 21st to the 23rd, that weekend before Thanksgiving. We are changing the location. Instead of being in 5 different buildings downtown, we're going to be in the Love Community Center, which is a new building that's just renovated here in Rushville. It's going to host it, and we're working. Yeah, right now we're working and organizing everything and just trying to make it. The focus is super educational for the makers, educational for the attendees. That is kind of our focus, and we're driving that direction.
And if you are watching this and you happen to be a chocolate maker in a producing country, and we had, from Honduras, Philippines, Ecuador,
in Colombia,
and Colombia last year. One of the things which really struck me, right, and I talked about in my opening remarks, is that Rushville and surrounding Rush County is farm country. And so all of the well, not all of the attendees, but most of the people who are attending this have some connection to farming. And so they get it. They understand how hard it is to be a farmer and do this. And it's really that interaction, that instant connection is not one that you see in New York City, right? Or in Seattle or any place like that. And so if you are interested if you have been an entrant in the Craft Chocolate Challenge, interested in growing this community in this way, then considering exhibiting at the Midwest Craft Chocolate Festival next year, put it on your calendar right now and start planning for it.
I take care of my Craft Chocolate Challenge, people, just to let you know.
Right. And and I could say, even though it was a first time festival, and so you never know what you don't know, right? The first time you do anything, right? It was one of the more fun experiences that I've had attending a festival ever, right? So just to let you know, in part because I flew to Chicago, met Chell from Fjorden in Chicago. We drove down to Indiana together through the snow. I got to stay in this wonderful historic house as a part of a homestay program that you've put together to make it more affordable for people coming in from far away to be a part of this. And then Chell and I, on the day after the festival, went down to Cincinnati, where we spent an hour or two with Paul Picton at Maverick in his factory, and then did some food sightseeing of Cincinnati before returning to Rushville. So it is a relatively low stress, but really, really hands-on experience for everyone. And with that, we're over time. And what I want to do is I want to thank you, Dustin, for joining me here today and talking about the challenge. Anybody, if you want to go into the comments, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, or go into the comments on The Chocolate Life, ask questions, please go and do that. And while you're there, if you're not a member of The Chocolate Life, consider becoming a member of The Chocolate Life and supporting. And then, Dustin, I will catch up with you shortly about this unofficial judge idea. And okay, so I've got a comment to Mark. Yes, Mark, if you want to go through a certified chocolate tasting class, it would be a good way to educate your palate. So, and we can talk offline about when I know the next one is going to be done in North America, relatively close to where you are. So if you are interested in participating, I can let you know, but it's at a festival, which is not the Midwest Craft Chocolate Festival. So I don't want to mention it. Right.
If they want to come to ours, they're more than welcome to come and educate at ours too.
No, absolutely. But if somebody is interested in taking a certified class,
I'm just saying
that's a different thing altogether. So I'll be happy to discuss that, Mark. If you want to email me, I will let you know in private where you can go do that, and then you can reach out to the organizer about doing that. And with that, we're an end for today. I hope everybody who watches this, who is a chocolate maker, who is looking for feedback on their products, to enter this year's Craft Chocolate Challenge, to go directly to the website, fill out the entry form, and get the chocolate to Dustin, right, as soon as you possibly can. If you make other things besides bars and you'd like to see them added to the challenge, you'd like to get feedback on those products, also send those along, right? So we can include them this year, not only in our review, right, efforts as judges, but also to help Dustin sort of craft, pun intended, the contours of what adding another category to the challenge might look like, right? Next to last words, Dustin?
Yeah, so it's been 4 years, and it's amazing that we were talking about this now. So I really appreciate the feedback and the platform, the help from everybody, the sponsors, the donations, the encouragement, all of it. I really do, and I think that if something like this was started like 10 years, 15 years ago, that you could have possibly seen some of the bigger makers that we see today start there, because you have to kind of have a starting point in an industry like ours, just to kind of learn what direction to go. So I'm happy that people are taking advantage of this, and I hope they continue to do so. And I hope somebody from our challenge becomes one of those big guys later in the future too, if they desire to be so.
Sounds great. And with that, I want to close out this episode of Pod Save Chocolate, where we've been talking about the 2025 Craft Chocolate Challenge with founder Dustin Cornett, with a reminder, if you're working with chocolate and you're not having fun, yeah, maybe you're doing it wrong, and you should reconsider your life choices or something like that, maybe. And with that, until the next time, everybody, ciao.